ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदादतं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः। Sri Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. The first meeting of Sri Ramakrishna with M, the recorder of the Gospel. We are discussing that profound, simple statement made by Sri Ramakrishna during the first meeting with M, in which he said, Shandha Gayatri te loy hai, Gayatri abar Omkare loy hai. Shandha refers to various activities, particularly the ritualistic activity in religion, in which you undergo a lot of rituals, activity, action, called karma. This statement is preceded by Sri Ramakrishna's statement. When you get overwhelmed by Ishvara Prema, love of God, then work, karma drops by itself. Karma apna apni tyag hoye jaye. Then he says, Sandhya merges into Gayatri, Gayatri merges into Om. Sandhya is the ritualistic portion, particularly the twilight devotions, as we call it, Sayam Sandhya and the Pratah Sandhya, where the sadhaka, the spiritual aspirant, prays to Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. He meditates upon Varenyam Bharga. The light of Supreme Consciousness, symbolized by the sun, for the purification of oneself completely through the waters, ablutions. Then he prays to Gayatri. In the morning it is called Gayatri, at noon it is called Savitri, and Sandhya it is called Saraswati. Avahana is done of the Gayatri. Gayatri mavahayami, Savitri mavahayami, Saraswati mavahayami, and so on. So after this is done, he invokes the Gayatri and meditates upon the Supreme Consciousness, symbolized by the light of the sun, the light of consciousness, Chaitanya Jyoti. The Gayatri says, Dhiyo yo naf prachodayat. The Dhi is the Vijnanamaya Atman in Vedanta, is the Anahata Chakra in Tantra, it is the spiritual heart, Hrid Padma in the Yogas, Yoga Sutra, and in the Upanishad is called Hridi Antar Jyoti. This is called the Atman, the Pratyega Atma. Pratyega Atma is Hridi Antar Jyoti. Antar Jyoti, the inner light, Hridi in the Hridaya. This is called the Vijnanamaya. Yajnavalkya discusses this with Janaka in the Jyotir Brahmana of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. What is the light by which man functions? That's the question. The answer given is Surya Jyoti. Then he asks if the Surya sets Astamita Surye, Aditye. What is the Jyoti? It is Chandra Jyoti. If the sun also sets, the Chandra, the moon also sets, what is the Jyoti? Agni Jyoti. The sun and the moon have set, the Agni is also extinguished, fire. What is the Jyoti? What is the light? the Vak. Because when there is complete darkness and you can't even see your own hand, it is through speech that you communicate. Speech is the light which leads you into action. When the sun is set and the moon is set and the fire is extinguished and the speech is hushed, what is the light? It is the Atma Jyoti, the inner light. Astamita aditye yagyavalkas chandramasya astamite shantegno shantayam vachi kim jyoti revayam purusha katama atmeti. What is this Atman? A beautiful definition is given by the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, by Yagyavalkya, the great sage of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. What is that Jyoti? What is the Atman? Katama atmeti yoyam vijnanamayah praneshu hridyantar jyoti purushas sasamana sannabho lokavanu sancharati dhyayate vale layativa. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, yoyam vijnanamayah. It is the light of the Vijnanamaya Atman in the heart. Hridi antarjyotihi. It is inner light of the heart. The heart is a spiritual heart in which a mysterious light, uncreated light is seen by the sadhaka when the kundalini arises and reaches the anahata chakra, which is the heart. Sri Ramakrishna talks about in the Gospel when he says, when the kundalini reaches the heart, a mysterious uncreated light is seen. Then the aspirant says, Eki, what is this light? What is this light? He is simply wonderstruck at this light. This is the Vijnanamaya Atma. Hridi antarjyotihi. This is accompanied by the experience of the anahata dhvani, the mysterious unstruck sound which is Om. So when the Gayatri awakens the Dhi, which is called Pragya in Yoga Sutra, Medha in the Vedas, this light of the Dhi, inner consciousness of the Pratyega Atman, awakens in the heart, and you see that consciousness is a mysterious light, not the material light, but the light of consciousness which you are. It is not the external light like ordinary physical material light. It is the inner light of consciousness which you feel you are that consciousness light. This is the beauty. This light makes you feel that you are that light. Jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuya sagga swaha. The Viraja Homa mantras and sannyasa, the Mahanarayana Upanishad, as a series of mantras. Jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam. I am the Jyoti, the inner light of consciousness, Viraja, without any blemish, Vipapma, sinless, Bhuyasam, may I become that light. Jyotiraham viraja vipapma, that is the light of consciousness, the inner light. So the awakening of Dhi is accompanied by the experience of the inner light of consciousness, the Antarjyoti, Hridyantarjyoti, Hridi Antarjyoti, the inner light in the heart, and the experience of a mysterious dhvani sound called the anahata, unstruck sound, which is Om. So the awakening of the Dhi, the Gayatri, naturally leads you to Om, which is the unstruck anahata dhvani. Sandhya merges into Gayatri. Gayatri leading to the awakening of the Dhi, Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Light of consciousness shining in your heart, Hridyantar Jyoti, and giving you the blessed spiritual experience of an unstruck sound, anahata dhvani, which is pranava, omkara, the primordial sound. This is the experience of yogis and Vedantins, sages and saints. From time immemorial, for thousands of years in India, the Om has been the most important mantra across all traditions. Every tradition of Hinduism, irrespective of whether it belongs to any particular book or a class or a cult, swears by this Om. Every mantra has to begin with this Om. And ultimately, all the mantras merge into that one syllable, Ekaksharam Brahma, it is called. This is one akshara, one syllable. Akshara also means the undecaying, imperishable Brahman. This is the purport of the entire Veda. That's why the Taittiriya Upanishad talks about Omkar as the chief important mantra of the whole Vedas. Yas Chandasam Rishabho Vishwarupaha. Chandasam Rishabha. Rishabha is the chief most, the most important. Vishwarupaha. Vishwa means Sarva, Sarvarupa. It is all pervading, it is infinite. This Om is the essence of the whole Vedas, and it is for the sake of this Om that all the sadhakas across all traditions in Hinduism, they struggle. So this question was asked by Nachiketa to Yama, who is the Brahma Vidya Acharya, in the Kathopanishad. Verse number 1.2.14. First Adhyaya, second Valli, and 14th mantra. Anyatra dharmad, anyatra dharmat, anyatra asmat krita kritat, anyatra bhuta bhutacha bhavyacha, yattat pashyasi tadvada. O Acharya, O revered sir, please tell me that which you directly perceive, because you are a man of realization, which is different from dharma and different from adharma also, and different from karya and karana. The karana, the cause, the karya, the effect, and different from past, present and future. That means it is timeless. It is unconditioned by time. It is infinite and vast. It is different from the pairs of opposites, Advaita Prapancha, and which is the thing which you have realized. Please tell me that. Then the famous reply by Yama, which is 1.2.15. Bhagavan Sri Krishna has adapted this in the Bhagavad Gita. Sarve Veda Yat Padamamananti Tapamsi Sarvani Cha Yad Vadanti Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena bravimi Om ityetat Sarve Veda Yatpadam Amananti. All the Vedas declare this. This pada, this state, this supreme position, realization, Amananti, all of them declare, talk about it. Tapamscha tapamsi sarvani yad vadanti. All austerity and penances are being done for the sake of this. Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti, desiring which all these aspirants follow the path of brahmacharya, ashrama, going to the guru, grihavas, gurukula, strict continence and brahmacharya, and meditation, tapasya. They go through all this. Why? Because they desire to attain the supreme state. Tatte padam sangrahena bravimi om ityetat. That supreme state, sangrahena bravimi. I am going to tell you about that state very, very briefly. Om ityetat. This is one syllable Om. The Shankaracharya, Bhagavan Bhashyakara, in the commentary he says, Om iti Shabda Vachyam Om Shabda Pratikam cha. This is Vachya and Pratika. Vachya is that which designates, designation, name, and Vachaka. Vachaka is the name, and Vachya is that which is being designated by this name. Om is the Vachaka, and the Vachya of Om is Brahman, and Om can also be taken as a pratika, symbol of Brahman. It's a very important point to note here that every object in the universe, including Brahman, if you take it as an object at all, has a name. You cannot think of an object without a name. In Laukik object, worldly objects, in the Dvaita Prapancha, the dualistic universe, every Vastu object has a name and form. The form is what the object is seen from people, and the name is that by which it is called. You call somebody by his name, he responds. Every person in this universe, including dogs and cats, have names. You know, the pets. Each pet, a dog or a cat which you carefully try to bring up, has a name. In this pandemic situation of the COVID-19, everybody is now taking so much care of the pets, caressing, fondling, feeding, because you need company. You feel lonely in your own company. That is the tragedy. A person who feels lonely in his own company is unhappy about himself. That means he dislikes his own company and he longs for the company of something else. If I dislike my own company and feel lonely, why should anybody else like my company? The simple psychological fact that lonely people, depressed people are never liked by anybody. Only a person who is always cheerful, full of joy, mirth, happiness, by living with his own self, called Atmarama. A person who is resting in his own self, Atma Krida, playing with one's own self, Atma Rata, deeply absorbed in his own self, Atma Santushta, he is satisfied with his own self, Atma Priyananda, the beautiful name which I got from my revered Guru. You are your own dearest. Who is dearest to you? Ultimately, you tell me. However much you can talk about anybody else as being dear to you, any object, any being, any human being, man or woman, cats or dogs, objects or things or houses or Android phones, none of them is dear to you because you need to leave all of them ultimately. Separation is just inevitable. So what is the closest and dearest? It's my own self. Therefore, the Upanishad says, love yourself. It is not selfishness. It is not self-love. It is love of the higher self. Your higher self is the same as God, Ishvara. Ishvara and Atma are synonyms. So your love for your own higher self fills you with great joy when you are your own self. Just living alone. You have beautiful Himalayan scene. You see a forest. You see a river Ganges flowing by. Nobody is around you, you are just alone, and you feel so much of joy in your own company. All of us at some time or the other have relished this joy. And when we were children, we are so happy with ourselves. Look at a child playing. He's simply playing in his own way. Nazrul has a wonderful song, Khelicho, Khelicho, e Vishwaloye, Virata Shishu, Anamane, Khelicho. Virata Shishu, this huge infinite dimensional child, baby, is playing Khelicho, Khelicho, Virata Shishu, Anamane, unconscious of everything else, simply absorbed in his own self. He is playing with the Chandra and Surya, he says. Chandra, Surya, the moon and the sun are your simply playthings. And you are playing in the whole universe. Virata Shishu Anamane Khelicho Khelicho. Oh, the huge, infinite baby, child, you are playing unconscious of everything, absorbed in your own self, playing and playing with this entire universe. It is a great Leela. This is the beautiful idea of Leela in Hinduism. Swami Vivekananda once told his dear disciple, Sister Nivedita, plans, plans, plans. This is the bane of you Westerners. In India, we don't plan. Plans unfold themselves. We have a theory of fun, Leela. Why did God create this universe? For fun. Why are we struggling to realize God? For fun. Why are we in this state? For fun. Why is it that we are severely infected and affected? For fun. The whole thing, death and life, are simply play in the hands of God. This idea of Atmarama, playing with oneself. Atma Krida Atmarati Kriyavan Esha Brahmavidam Varishtaha. Mundakopanishad. Who is the supreme knower of Brahman? Brahmavidam Varishtaha. Brahmavid, Brahmavid Vara, Brahmavid Variyan, Brahmavid Varishtha. These are the gradations given in some of the Shastras, like Panchadashi and so on. A Brahmavid is a person who has realized Brahman, but different layers of realization, different depths of realizations are possible. There is no end to saying that I have realized God, I realized Brahman. Mahapurush Swami Shivananda Ji, who was the second Sanghadhyaksha, the president of the Ramakrishna order, Ramakrishna Mutt and the Ramakrishna mission, was once asked by a curious devotee or a monk, Maharaj, have you realized God? Mahapurush Maharaj smiled and said, yes and no. What is yes and no? How can there be yes and no? Then he smiled and said, have you seen the Ganges? Have you seen the flow of the Ganges? Has the Ganges reached the ocean, the destination where it's supposed to merge? Yes, of course. If you go to Ganga Sagar, you can see the Sangama, the merging of Ganges in the Sagara, in the ocean. So the Ganges has reached the ocean, but still continues to flow towards the ocean. What a wonderful way of putting it. Only men of great realization can say this. It's like the Ganges river, having attained the ocean, yet continues to flow towards the ocean. In exactly the same way, you may have realized God at a certain level, but he continues to move towards God, because the infinitude of God can never be exhausted. The infinitude of God can never be exhausted. This is the fundamental teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. And therefore, the ways by which you can reach him are also infinite. Tini ananta, patho ananta. Infinite is the real true nature of God, and infinite are the paths by which you can reach him. Infinitude can never be exhausted. You can never see the end of God, Ananta. There is a story in the Puranas. Suddenly the luminous pillar of light appeared, like glowing fire. A pillar, a stambha, which appeared so tall and so big, one could not find out what is the top, what is the bottom. So Brahma was charged with the task of finding out the Adi and Anta of this luminous stambha, which was Brahman. So Brahma, Chaturmukhi Brahma, Prajapati, he went up and up and up, and also tried to reach the bottom. He could not see the top or the bottom because it's an infinite pillar. But he wanted to say, coming back, that I saw the top. There is one Ketaki flower, the beautifully smelling yellow flower, which usually is used to decorate the hair during special occasions. Women used to decorate their hair in special occasions. It has thorns, but its fragrance is tremendous. So he saw the Ketaki flower and said, I will say falsely that I have seen the top and the bottom. You should be a witness and testify. Both of them agreed. And when he said this, he was punished for telling a lie. This is the story. And therefore they say, the curse was, Brahma, you will never have a temple. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, these are the three gods, Trimurti, of the Indian pantheon. the Trinity. Whereas Vishnu and Shiva have innumerable temples, Brahma doesn't have a single temple. Perhaps somewhere there's only one temple, I hear. Why? It was cursed because it claimed to have seen the top and the bottom of this infinite luminous light of fire which was Brahman. And Ketaki flower got also the share of that curse. Although you have so much of fragrance, you will never be used in God's worship. Therefore, in the southern part of India, it is very common. Although it is used by women to decorate their hair on special occasions like weddings and so on, it is never used in God's worship. This is the story. The meaning of the story is you can never find the two ends. It is plus infinity on one side and minus infinity on the other, as we say in mathematics and physics. It's an infinite which never can be attained or exhausted. This is the fundamental teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. This is the statement made by Swami Turiyanandaji. One of the monks wrote to him, "What is the philosophy of Sri Ramakrishna?" Turiyanandaji wrote back, whose gist was, "Never put a limit on God's infinity." In the rules book meant for the Ramakrishna order of monks, Swami Vivekananda clearly wrote unambiguously and beautifully, "Kamini kanchaner nyay Shri Bhagavan kono jinishke baran korechilen sheta hocho Bhagavan ke iti kora." If there is anything which Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Bhagavan, Ramakrishna has vehemently, detestably forbidden, like attachment to lust and gold, that is putting a limit on God's majesty and infinity. Never limit God. How many stories Ramakrishna has told in the Gospel of Ramakrishna about this? Very interesting stories, imageries. An ant went to a sugar hill. It ate a grain of sugar. Its stomach was filled. Then it carried another grain in its mouth and was walking back to its little hole. While walking, it looked back and said, "Next time on, I will pull the entire sugar hill and put it in my little hole." This is the audacity of man. Man, proud man, proud of his little authority, most ignorant of what he is most sure of, his glassy essence, makes such fantastic gestures at the high heavens which makes the angels weep. Shakespeare in Measure for Measure, dressed in a little brief authority. The coronavirus is giving tight slaps on man's cheeks and says, what is the answer to me? The entire pride of man has been crushed by a tiny little virus which can't be seen and which is actually not alive, but suddenly comes to life and it contacts something which is live. So quickly it mutates and multiplies, changes its color and shape and form and nature. Man is baffled. All your pride of knowledge simply is crushed. dressed in a little brief authority. Most ignorant of what he is most sure of is grassy essence. He is so sure of himself. I know this, I can do this. I have studied, I have knowledge. The first sentence which Ramakrishna spoke to M, you are a man of knowledge? M writes, what is knowledge, what is ignorance? M was not fully clear at that time. He thought, study of so many books gives you knowledge, and not studying books leaves you in ignorance. Much later he came to know realization of God, knowing God, realizing the infinite spirit and consciousness, which is our own real nature, is knowledge. All else is ignorance. So the infinitude of God can never be limited. He is limitless. So Ramakrishna tells another story, Puranic story. The Satchidananda is a vast, infinite ocean of infinite breadth and infinite depth. Imagine a vast ocean whose breadth and depth are all infinite. This is Satchidananda, the real nature of God. And who can know the Satchidananda in full, in reality? He says there is a view that even Shukadeva, one of the greatest of sages of all time, has not touched this ocean, only saw it from a distance and heard its roar. And Devadideva Mahadeva, the great Shiva, just sipped 3 morsels. 3 times he sipped this water like Achamana and immediately became Shava, unconscious. Even Shiva, just only 3 sips. So what about most ordinary jivas like us? Never think you have attained something. All the knowledge that you have, even the spiritual realizations that you may come across are nothing compared to the infinitude of God. He tells another story, so telling. Arjuna, the great warrior, whom Sri Krishna awakened from his deep depression and gave him knowledge of Brahman, was so overwhelmed with devotion to Krishna and then went on praising him. Param Brahma, Param Dhama, you are the supreme being, you are the infinite abode, you are the greatest God, and so on. Sri Krishna smiled and said, come with me, I'll show you something. After a long walk, they came to a tree, and Sri Krishna told Arjuna, just see what is there in the tree. So many gooseberries, they call it yam in Indian languages, just hanging there in the tree. Infinite number of them. Then Arjuna said, gooseberries? No, go and see near. Then he went near and saw each one of them was a Sri Krishna. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Shodasha Kala Sampurna Sakshad Bhagavan. That is Sri Krishna. All the various avatars are supposed to be manifestations of Krishna. The Bhagavata says, Anyetu, all the other avatars, are only Kala and Amsha. They are some parts, some portions of the infinite God. Krishnastu, but Krishna himself is Bhagavan Swayam. He is Bhagavan himself, full, total, complete, infinite. Even that Krishna is like a gooseberry in the infinite ocean, infinite tree, Akshara Vriksha. Thousands and millions of Krishnas are hanging there. Then what is the nature of this infinite Akshara? It humbles you, it destroys your little ego, even the spiritual ego which comes to a sadhaka when he has even a glimpse of that realization. Never feel you have attained God. Who can say that I have attained God? So the infinite dimension of God, Brahman, is described by Om. Just like every object in this universe has a name, Om is also thought of as having a name. Om does not have any name or a form, but for the sake of upasana, in order to meditate, in order to worship, you think it has a name and a form. As Saguna Brahman, Brahman with gunas or attributes, Savishesha Brahman, attribute full Brahman, quality full Brahman, has a form, has a name. Durga, Kali, Ganesha, the various avatars, for example, Krishna, Rama, Ramakrishna. We think of them as manifestations of Saguna Brahman. They have a name. You call them Rama, Rama, Rama. Rama responds, oh, did you call me? Krishna, Krishna responds. Ramakrishna, he responds. Dakarmaton Dakos, Ramakrishna says, call him with a real longing. Then the infinite Lord will respond. Pray to him, call upon him. So if you call Brahman, Brahman responds. Nowadays you call with the Android phone or send a message. You know what is the number of Brahman? There is a button there. It's a shortcut. So the numbers you call so often, every time you don't need to press. You program your Android phone and say, suppose 8. That means it goes to a person who you call very often. 0 is the number by which you can call Brahman, because Brahman is Shunya and Purna, and there is a button Om. So you take your phone, press Om, Brahman responds, oh, did you call me? Yeah, I called you. Brahman responds when you say Om, because Om is the name of Brahman. And Aham is the name of Atman. This is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So Om is the Vachaka, the name, and the Vachya, the named, designated, is Brahman. That by which Brahman is designated, designation is called Om. Tasya Vachaka Pranavaha. Yoga Sutra says, Patanjali, Tasya Vachakaha. His Vachaka, his name, designation is Om. Tasya Vachaka Pranavaha. And Nama and Nami are identical. This Ramakrishna has mentioned this. The name by which you call an object and the object itself are the same. The name and the form are identical. Nami is that form, Saguna Brahman. Nama is the name, which is Om. So Om can therefore be thought of also as a form of Brahman. when it is thought of as a form of Brahman and worshipped, upasana is done, then it's called a pratika. Just like we have a form of God, we have a picture, we have a murti, an image of God, Durga, or Kali, Jagadhatri, then Ganesha, Shiva, Vishnu, etc. We have the murti, we have an image of Kali, we have an image of Vishnu, either made of stone or made of clay, made of wood. So it is not wood or clay or stone, it is a living image. Sri Ramakrishna called it Chinmayi Pratima. Earliest conversation of Master Maharshai, M. Should people worship the stone image? M says they should be made to understand that it is not the stone image that they are worshipping, that they are worshipping the deity which is Chaitanya within this stone image. Then Sri Ramakrishna snubs him and says, why should it be stone? Matir Pratima, image of clay. Matir cannot go, Chinmayi Pratima. It is not Mrinmayi, it is Chinmayi. Mrinmaya, Mrit means clay, mud, and Mrinmayi made of clay. That Mrinmayi Pratima is made of clay, and the Chinmayi Pratima is consciousness. You don't say it is made of consciousness, because nobody can make anything out of consciousness. It is just pure consciousness. Swamiji calls it in the Aratrika hymn on Sri Ramakrishna, Chid Ghanakaya. Chid Ghanakaya means Chit, consciousness. Ghani Bhuta has become condensed, as it were, into a form of the Kaya, the form and the body of Sri Ramakrishna. The form of God, the image of God is not Mrinmayi, it is Chinmayi. It is consciousness itself. In fact, Vedanta will say, realization of great saints have vouched for it. The entire world is actually consciousness of God. It is the consciousness of God, consciousness of Supreme Brahman, which is pervading, interpenetrating this entire universe. Cover this world with God. Ishavasya Upanishad. Ishavasya midaggas sarvai yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Whatever exists in this universe, in this world of relativity, cover it up, envelop it with God. That means it is otaprota. Otaprota is a beautiful phrase used in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. What is it by which the whole thing is otaprota? What is it by which everything is interpenetrated, informed, enveloped, saturated, soaked in God, as it were? Sri Ramakrishna uses a simile in the Gospel of Ramakrishna. Chaitanya jana jore ache. In Bengali, jore ache is a very significant expression. It's difficult to translate it into English. Jore ache means it is completely saturated, soaked in that. Just like, for example, you take a cloth and put it into water. What happens to that cloth? It is soaked in it. You cannot say that the water can be separated from the cloth. It can be dried, but it can't be separated. Another example, Suppose on a muddy surface, there's the rainfall, then the whole thing becomes clay, muddy. If somebody says, what is mud? Oh, mud is the clay plus water. Oh, is it so? Then can you separate out the water from the clay? Oh no, that is not possible. Why? It is not a mere combination, addition, mixture of the mud and water. The water has entered into the clay in the mud in such an fashion, inseparable fashion, that you can't separate one from the other. It is soaked, interpenetrated, overwhelmed, enveloped, soaked. So consciousness is soaking everybody. Chaitanya jore ache. All of us, our bodies, our minds, our indriyas, and all that you see outside, all that you see inside, the entire universe is soaked in God, interpenetrated by God, enveloped by God, covered by God. This is the highest realization of a jnani or a bhakta or a Vedantin or a yogi. You see the same divine everywhere. Why is it that we do not see? Because our vision has become polluted by worldliness, by wrong thinking. We have completely polluted our vision, and our vision is not high. We have a low, worldly vision which does not allow us to see the same Brahman present everywhere. What should be done? Don't try to realize, seek Brahman. See him. Swami Vivekananda's famous statement in the Inspired Talks, which changed the entire perception of Swami Ashokananda, who was in San Francisco for a very, very long time preaching. He says he read this sentence and completely got a new light and gave up the world and became a sannyasi. Don't seek God, see him. Seeking means there is something apart from God which is there, and you are seeking God in the midst of that. That's what we normally think is sadhana. Sadhana is seeking God. You have your wife and your children, your relatives and your various possessions. Seek God in all of them. Your wife comes to you, seek God in him, in her. Your children come to you, seek God in them. No, don't seek him. Your wife and children are not coming to you, your relative is not coming to you. God is coming to you in the form of your wife, in the form of your children, in the form of your relatives. Is God himself wearing so many masks he is playing? Swami Brahmananda once told his disciples, you see, my mind sometimes rises to such a high level of consciousness. I see it is God himself playing, wearing so many masks. The mask of a child, the mask of a woman, the mask of a man, the mask of the ignorant, and the mask of a sadhaka. Then whom to teach? What kind of upadesha, instruction can I give to God himself? So I bring my mind to a lower level so that I can see the differences and appropriately give instructions. See the kind of awareness, that heightened awareness they had. Shankara therefore says in one of the minor works, Prakarana Grantha, Drishtim Jnanamayim Kritva Pashyed Brahmamayam Jagat. I was blessed by hearing this for the first time from the present revered President Maharaj, Swami Smarananandaji. He used to repeat this very often. Drishtim Jnanamayim Kritva Pashyet Brahmamayam Jagat. Whole world is Brahmamaya. Chinmaya. Maya means full of, interpenetrated, overwhelmingly covered by. Pashyed Brahmamayam Jagat. Jagat is Brahmamaya. You see the Jagat as Brahman. How? Change your vision. Your drishti, your vision should be Jnanamayi. And if you take the kajal, the collyrium of knowledge, and with that you paint your eyes, you see everywhere the same Brahman. Swamiji's famous line, Jnananjana Vimalanayana Vikshane Mohajay. Jnananjana Vimalanayana Vikshane Mohajay. O Lord, your eyes are painted with the collyrium of jnana, and with that, whoever you see, he completely becomes free from all impurities and all delusion and all ignorance. So take the collyrium of jnana, jnananjana, and paint your eyes, and you get a divine eye, divya chakshu, through which you see Brahmamayam Jagat. Jnanamayi chakshu, Jnanamayi drishti will give you the vision of Brahmamayam Jagat. So the Om is the name of Brahman, Saguna Brahman. This is the, and Nama, and the Nami is Saguna Brahman, God. Or you can think of this as the pratika, symbol of the Saguna Brahman for the sake of upasana. So for minds who can't rise to that level, so you do upasana. Still higher is japa of the nama. Still higher is the vision that God Himself is present everywhere. Whom to praise, whom to blame, it is all He. God is playing with gods. Swami Vivekananda says in one of the lectures in Jnana Yoga, what sorrow can there be in this world when gods are playing with gods? Gods are working with gods, and gods are living with gods. Tatra ko moha kashoka ekatvam anupashyataha. How can there be, where can there be shoka and moha when there is ekatva, when a person sees ekatva, oneness of existence? Ekatvam anupashyataha sees the one infinite, indivisible, akhanda satchidananda, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute, the Brahman, pervading everywhere. Then where is the shoka, where is the sorrow? Brahmai vedam amritam purastad brahma paschad brahma dakshinatas chottarena adhaschordhancha prasitam brahmai vedam vishwamidam varishtham. Brahman is above, Brahman is below, Brahman is on the right, Brahman is to the left, Brahman is at the back, Brahman is at the front. The entire world, the universe, Vishwamidam, all that exists, Vishwa is Sarva here. Brahma Varishtham, the Supreme Brahman. So you have and live in Brahman, have your being in Brahman. That's why you chant at the time of eating. The 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you eat something, that is also Brahman. The person who sacrifices also Brahman. That which is being sacrificed is Brahman. The Agni into which it is sacrificed is Brahman. The instrument by which sacrifice is made is also Brahman. And ultimately, he merges into Brahman. Om Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. This mantra is chanted every day in the Ramakrishna tradition. Whenever you have food, the Viprahara Ahara and Naisha Ahara in the noon and night prasad and noon prasad, you chant this before you eat. That means the whole thing is only Brahman. Why is it that we cannot see this? Because our drishti is abrahma drishti. You see the world of duality, the differences. If the differences are taken away, then drishtim jnanamayim kritva pashyed brahmamayam jagat. This is Omkara as Vachaka, Nama, the Vachya, the Nami being Brahman. Or Omkara can be taken as the Upasana. So the Upasaka, the spiritual aspirant, takes Om as a pratika, symbol, and worships Brahman through that symbol. So many dimensions of Om we'll discuss. There's infinite meaning to this one little syllable, Ekakshara Brahman. Om. Om Shanti 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 Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dhrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha Shri Ramakrishnarpanamastu.